Welcome to You Can't Laugh at Work, part of the You Can't Laugh at That podcast. We invite leaders from top workplaces to prove that not only can you laugh at work, the same traits that make a great comedian also make a great leader. Today's guest is no different. Victor Bohnert, CEO of Franklin, Tennessee-based association management company Innovatis Group. Innovatis Group creates, manages, and engages communities. In simple terms, they bring people together, just like laughter. Whether it's a customer group, a user group, or society, they get audiences excited and engaged with your product or service by listening to the needs of your company or association, and they create custom solutions that meet your goals. From an entire infrastructure of management to a tailored experience for your elite customers, they track your audience's engagement and interest in real time and adjust accordingly, just like a comedian works a room, allowing them to be one step ahead with new ideas and innovation, nurturing your community members into community advocates. Their culture has been recognized as a top workplace by the Tennessean 2 years in a row and is a workplace that values entrepreneurship, humility, fun, and hard work, which is part of the reason why I invited Victor to be on this episode of the podcast. But before we get to that, this podcast is brought to you by Water Cooler Comedy. What if your team was as excited to clock in on Monday morning as they were for that first drink on Friday night? As the workforce continues to shift and deal with new disruptions and distractions, leaders are looking for answers as to how they can bring their teams together, recruit and retain top talent, and be ready for the next unexpected adversity. Turns out, when humor plays an active role in the workplace experience, it can help solve all of those challenges. And at Water Cooler Comedy, it's our mission to turn your company into one where laughing together is part of building a stronger culture and improving the problem-solving process. From customized corporate comedy experiences, to keynotes, to comedy workshops, to online training, and one-on-one consulting, and more, Water Cooler Comedy can help make your company one where people come together to laugh around the water cooler, whether it's in person or virtual. Schedule a free consultation today at watercoolercomedy.org/booking or learn more about us at watercoolercomedy.org, because we want to help you make work the time and place to laugh. Welcome to You Can't Laugh at Work. This is part of the You Can't Laugh at That podcast series. We typically bring on comedians and talk about topics that are not funny, and we prove that they can be made funny from the right perspective. But work is one of those topics that is brought up as, you know, the old school way of thinking. You can't be laughing and working at the same time, when in reality, research has shown over and over again that there isn't anything further from the truth. Right. And joining us today is Victor Bohnert from Innovatis. That's how you say it, right?
That's right. Yep, you got it.
All right. I want to go to the Greek pronunciation
of
the
things, Latin,
like
yes.
Or, you know.
People say Innovatis all the time, and I have to tell you that when I hear it, it's I feel like there's an extra level of credibility it gives our company, but in full disclosure, it is Innovatis. So, but thank you for the detail.
Yeah, I want to make sure I get it right. Like, it would be perfectly David to just pronounce it wrong the entire time, and then and then at the end you're like, yeah, no, that's not. This is all wrong.
No, you got it right.
All right, awesome, man, awesome. Well, give us a little bit of background on what you do as an organization, but explain it as though I'm a 5-year-old. Can you do that?
Yes, sure, or anyone in my family.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I've never used a computer before. What's up?
Yeah. No, I've got it from my family that, and this is actually a true story. So I'll jump right into the humor of all of this. There was literally a conversation I had with my father one day, and I think it has to do with my background. I actually used to work in Washington, D.C. in politics. And there was literally a conversation I had with my father one day, and he said, you know, look, one day I just want you to know, if you ever decide to tell me what you really do, you can trust me. And I said, that I assure you, it's not as exciting as you think. I think he thinks I was some sort of Vince Flynn character, Jack Reacher, covert operative. That's not what we do. What we do at Innovatis is, and we're a company that focuses on creating, supporting, and managing communities, really creating opportunities for people with like interests to connect with each other. Now, there's a whole industry out there, association management, that is probably most closely what we align to, and indeed, most of our clients are associations. The reason I don't go right to association management is because, one, it's still something that unless you're in that industry, people don't know what it is. And number two, the whole core and foundation for why we started Innovatis 6 years ago, and I think the reason that in that time we become one of the largest, one of the fastest growing companies in this space is because we haven't approached it like so many other association management companies, or AMCs as they refer to themselves. So yes, we provide similar services. Yes, if you provide a side-by-side view of our business model and their business model, there's going to be a lot of similarities. But where we differ is we believe in focusing on things like engagement and on relevance. And historically, organizations that are in the space, they look at things like size. How many members did I have? And how many attendees did I have in my last conference? And both of those are critical indicators, don't get me wrong. But what we do is we go a level down and we try to assess where the organization is in terms of the universe that it represents, whether that's an industry, a profession, an interest, etc. And then we measure that sort of representation. And our general premise, which is fairly simple, is that if your membership base is not reflective of the organization or the industry that it represents, your relevance to that profession isn't as strong. And so what really sets us apart is we take it beyond just the management, which I think has a largely execution type of slant to it, and we move it to more of an engagement, active, dynamic type of philosophy. And to do that, you have to have a unique culture, a unique business model, a unique staff team. And we believe we've assembled that over the past few years.
That all sounds super serious, man. But here's the thing is, organizations like you matter. You're a big part of, I do a lot of speaking for associations. I do a lot of work with HR associations, and kind of getting their finger on the pulse of their people. Are they engaging their people? Are they reaching out to the right people? That's a big component of this. Same goes in regard to being a comedian, like getting on stage. You have to know your audience, because if you're delivering a message that isn't vibing with your audience, you're not going to create that connection. So a big part of what you say is like connecting, is creating this dialogue, is building these communities of advocates. I listened to another interview that you did, and I thought that was really, really interesting. Let's frame this in a cultural standpoint.
Sure.
How do you bring your people together to form communities through this two-way dialogue?
Sure. I had never even attempted to get into this analogy that we're getting into between what we do in comedy. So this has the huge potential to fall pretty flat. So that's an interesting way to open that question. But I do think you're right. It's understanding, the dynamic between, audience and performer, I suppose. And when you do it right, it's probably highly rewarding, same as us. When we do things right, it's highly rewarding. But boy, when something doesn't work, it bombs for us, just like a bad joke, I would say. But for us, I do think that we've gotten very good at that, fingers on the pulse, to use that term, understanding what it is that people want. But what separates us is not just being able to do that, but it's very quickly understanding what that means and creating action behind that. So a great example is through the pandemic, right? Everyone was scrambling to figure out what the pandemic was going to mean for them, whether it was job focused, work focused, work from home focused, event focused. We were making massive moves back in February. And I think that ability to very quickly process the information and then take action on that makes sure that our relevance isn't reactive. Our our ability to drive engagement is very proactive, meaning that when people are trying to figure out what is my life going to look like work from home, we're already out there setting up webinars for you to look at. And boy, the webinars and the advice that we gave in February is probably very good in February, not very relevant now because it changes so quickly. So I think that the most important thing that we do is, while we represent very large communities, we find ways to get very small very quickly to ensure that, hey, what is David's engagement going to be? How is David going to measure the return on this? And yes, while we look at this from a business model perspective as engaging large communities, our success, and I think the success for the communities that we work with, that we partner with, is found in having that relevance at the individual level. If you have that philosophical approach to that, I think it gives you a leg up. Now, it's candidly, it can be very difficult to do. I think you've got to be very careful to not listen to the squeaky wheels, and making sure that you're, relevant to the bulk of the membership, and recognize that you've got people that are always the first ones through the wall on new offerings, and you have people that are legacy, and they're just holding on to the bitter end. And you've got to have that right balance of offerings, delivery mediums, and relevance to each of those people.
I think making it small, I think that's a really good way of framing it that can connect with just about anybody. Making big problems small, making big, you've got a large amount of people that are looking up to you and looking to you for answers, and minimizing that on a human level. That has been a recurring theme in organizations that have weathered the storm, not only weathered the storm, but come out even better on the other side as a result of that. And what would you say is that a skill that you have personally on a personal level that has been your biggest factor of success throughout this whole thing?
Oh boy, I mean, it's got to be that I love what I do, right? I mean, that has to be it. It's I think that you can see it in our our warm up to this. We were laughing about a few things, and even how I describe things. I mean, I love what we do. I believe immensely, without qualification, in the power, and I suppose you could say good and bad, but the power of the collective experience of an organization or a community, the collective knowledge of an organization or community, and when used right, the collective power of the same. And I suppose I was somehow exposed to that at an early age, but that belief that I have, that this better together type of thing is ultimately what drives us. I think the other thing, and this is probably a better answer to what you're asking, is we've seen a shift, and it probably happened, I would argue, with the advent of cell phones, and then accelerated with things like smartphones. But you're seeing consumer behavior drive enterprise strategy. And so when you look at organizations that are out there, and we work with some of the largest companies in the world, actually, but the way they engage their customer now is really driven by consumer behaviors. And there's some, really fantastic stories that highlight that. Yeah, I'm a Peloton customer and member. And when you look at what they do, it's a bike, it's a nice bike. But really the difference is they enable a very easy integration with a broader community. And that ability for me or anyone else to engage that community when I want to, how I want to, for how long I want to, that to me is a strategy that is great for a fitness company, but boy, you can apply that to a customer engagement company or customer engagement strategy for some of the largest companies in the world. So it's there's something very personal about what we do. I believe in the outcome, and I think the companies that start to embrace that, they start to see these communities not as a way to create loyalty, but truly a competitive differentiator for them.
Now, reframe that as far as, consumer, you say consumer behavior drives engagement strategy. What about employee behavior? How does that drive your engagement strategy?
Employee behavior from our team. I mean, look, it's there's two answers to that. First of all, we certainly seek out a certain type of employee and team member from our company, and we've seen our team grow to almost 100 people between our offices in Nashville, Chicago, and DC. when that happens and happens as rapidly as it does, it starts to obviously feed into the culture. And so that culture that's developed by this type of employee that we're recruiting now starts to create this cycle of a self-perpetuating cycle of culture. So the type of people that we look for, though, are reflective of what you said. They tend to slant to younger. Now, look, I'm almost 50, so younger, I think, is a relative term. So they tend to slant, to a little bit younger. So you're talking about your early 30s-ish. We tend to find and seek out people that are creative, people that can attribute their success to the success of the clients that they serve. So there's really that sort of embedded value in what they're doing, that attachment to it. People that recognize that there's never a situation where rinse and repeat is a strategy. So if you come in and you create something that's successful, what we do is we take a look at it and say, okay, how can we replicate it for other organizations, or how do we make it bigger? If something fails, no problem. We try to determine, did it fail because it was a bad idea, which has happened, by the way, or did it fail because maybe there was something wrong with the execution? Can we tweak it and move forward? So we have to, I think we have to demand a bit of instability in our environment, because it helps us continue to stay mentally and strategically sharp. And to do that, to have people that trust their instincts at a relatively young age, or, I should say, a younger place in their career, to have them trust their instincts, to know that we trust them, to have the ability to get in there and fail, but to ultimately understand that you've got a team behind you to help drive success. That's the team that we're building, and that's the environment that we try to create. And again, happy to elaborate on what that takes to keep that type of workforce engaged and happy, which I think we've done pretty well. We've got almost 0% turnover. So we've done a really good job doing that.
Yeah, and you show up on these best places to work list, which, congratulations. I mean, that's a distinction that more organizations should strive for. I love that organizations like yours are being put on this pedestal for that reason, but I want that market to be saturated. Like, I want more workplaces to have that mentality. Like, demanding instability, that's a risky move for a lot of people who want to, I want to go to work, I want to know what's going to happen, and I want to clock out and live my life. But in demanding instability, that creates a lot of uncertainty. And to me, uncertainty is a sandbox where we could keep building the sandbox out, doing whatever we want inside that sandbox. And on your website, it talks about incorporating fun into the culture. So how is that included in everything you just described, through like trust, through, failure, no rinse and repeat, and so on? How does fun play a role into that?
Well, I think it's at the core of everything we do. If you could have seen the 2 or 3 people that were helping me just get set up for this, and there's a lot of laughter that happens. First, going back, I want to talk about the recognition that we did get, because there's some hindsight in my pride in that type of recognition. What I mean by that is, no one ever gets into that for that type of recognition. But what's fantastic about the recognition that we've received for being one of the top workplaces, it is 100% voted on by your team members. And so I think that feeds into this line of, hey, how do we keep this fun? And what we try to do, and by the way, even that comfort with instability, there's some hindsight in that as well. We started to see that when we allowed for that, and when we asked for that, and when we asked people to think about this differently, they were more engaged and they had more fun and they felt more rewarding. And we're like, okay, let's do more of that. But what's interesting about it is we try to create an environment where every one of our team members can see themselves in our company. And so that's why I'm so proud of the recognition for the top workplaces that we've received. But you can even see it walking around the office. And I'm smiling because you can't see it on the video. But when we built out our offices, we green is our color. It's probably a bit overdone in certain places, but we had a green bucket that we put in the middle of the office. And we said, look, we're building out a new office. What do you want to see in the office? I had no idea what I was going to get. But what was really cool about doing that is every single thing that our employees asked for, except for one, we were able to build into the design of the new office. And so things like a glass wall with our logo, a wood accent wall, hardwood floors, all very cool things I hadn't thought of, but now someone, whoever said it, walks in and see that. We didn't get to do a wood burning fireplace, and there's all sorts of commercial codes that wouldn't let us do that. But if you walk out here, you will see things like a ton of standing desks out here. You will see a bunch of spaces that have nothing but comfortable chairs where people can collaborate. You will see walls that are completely painted as whiteboards that our teams can just collaborate on. You will see, yes, David, you will see about 15 big green yoga balls that people thought they wanted to sit on. And so we invested who knows how much money in yoga balls that now get kicked around out here like a ball pit at a Chuck E. Cheese or something like that. But the point is that we are very much a company that welcomes that type of input from our team members, that they can see themselves in our organization. And I believe by doing that, people want to be here, and it is fun. And we've heard through the pandemic numerous times, people miss it. People miss what we've created here. And so I think that's a good measure of our success.
Mm-hmm. How were you able to maintain that in a virtual setting, that degree of fun?
Very difficult. Yeah, very difficult. And it was, there were a lot of not fun conversations about it, meaning that as recently as yesterday, talking to our management teams about, hey, this is a deliberate thing that we have to do. So think about that, is talking to a management team about how they have to make fun a priority, or they, you've got to put work into this. There's nothing fun about putting work into being fun. But that's what we've had to do. And, we've done the things that everyone else has. We've done virtual outings. We've done the wine tastings. We've done I don't think it was intended to be a ugly Christmas sweater or ugly Christmas pajama party, but it kind of turned into that. We did trivia things. We did a lot of things the best we can. But the truth to that is, in this largely virtual environment, there was no way to do it as effectively, not for the team as large as we have. And we worked very hard at it. And I think that we did okay. And I think we probably did better than most, but we're looking forward to coming back.
Yeah, the effort's there. Not every one of those conversations will be fun. And like you said, incorporating fun into the workplace seems like it should be fun. But just like any, making plans for anything else, it comes with stress. It comes with anxiety. It comes with disagreements. And just having that like core component where you could look back at it and go, okay, all right, this was worth it in hindsight. Yeah, I think that's where that matters. So,
it was one of the more difficult things we added, if you can imagine, we added 23 new people during the pandemic. And so there's another component altogether in that reality, is that we're trying to keep our team together who has an expectation for the experience that you just talked about. And then we're having people that have signed on for what we've, positioned our company as, and we're trying to get them engaged in a virtual environment. I mean, it's a heavy lift, and I think our team did a great job. I will tell you this, as soon as August rolls around, August, September, we're planning on getting everyone from across the country into one spot for, a corporate outing of some sorts, just to really kick that back off again. And I think that, like most people out there, we won't really miss a beat.
Yeah. Yep. I love that, creating a shared experience together. That's more organizations need to do that for sure. Now, looking forward, biggest obstacles and challenges that you're still you're dealing with right now as you look into the crystal ball.
Again, I'm going to go to hindsight. Making decisions as a company this size that hold true for a company that's growing. And I'll give you some great examples. When we were a small company of, maybe, 10 or even 20 people, we let people bring dogs to work, and we did all these fun things that companies do. Well, imagine when you get to be closer to 75 people or even more than that, you got a lot of dogs floating around. And so, those are things that you got to be careful of. But if you go back to where we started this conversation, I do believe so much of our success lies in the environment that we've created. And being able to do that as you continue to scale as a large company is going to be very, very important. It's going to be increasingly challenging. So as we move to 100, 200 people, 300 people, even more than that, how do we create an environment where every single person sees themselves in that? I mean, it's going to be more than, green yoga balls floating around the office. It's going to be truly us continuing to make that a priority and continue to be willing to evolve and change and address these ideas as they come up. I think that's going to be our biggest challenge. But we've unlocked something different. I think our success, would validate that. I think you can see the passion I have around it. So I don't see that our growth is going to slow. So this just becomes something that we have to be aware of, and it's something that we have to address.
And I think you may have, without even knowing it, provided at least one idea for a solution earlier on in this conversation around making it small, making the big small. A lot of organizations who are growing, a lot of these fellow leaders that I talk to are working with organizations who are expanding because they have that cultural togetherness that people are looking for. They're attracting top recruits. They're attracting people who know what the culture is before they even throw that application, that resume your way. And the one thing that I've seen people do, like virtual coffee chats where it's randomized, where it's like 10 people just talking about something silly, totally unrelated to work. I mean, there are any number of directions that you can take. And laughing together does bring people together, whether it's virtually, whether it's in person. And so that brings me to this question. The last thing that you really laughed about as a team, and then individually that like tied into that.
I mean, it's hard because the list is fortunately very long, and I think that validates some of the things that you're thinking in terms of the importance of laughter at work. But we've had a lot of good laughs about some of the organizations and groups that we've worked with, and some of the unique things that have happened in this type of work from home environment. And we've had it all. We've had the wandering pets knocking over glasses, or the spouses wandering through the background. I do think one of the funniest things that we had a good laugh at is we did have an experience similar to one of the commercials out there, where it was a very serious meeting that we were having, and it was a very serious person that was on the meeting. One of their children had set a filter on the screen, and this poor person had to do a whole meeting that we couldn't reschedule with a fake mustache that followed her around on the screen. And it was entertaining for our team to laugh about that, and but to hold it together. But those are the types of things that we just enjoy, and you got to kind of laugh it off. But there's a long list of from our folks that no one takes themselves too seriously. One of the things I do love about laughter that we haven't talked about, that I think is completely underrated, is the way there's a bit of vulnerability that it frees up and allows people to be more comfortable. And if you can laugh together, I think it creates more of a safe space. And so these types of things where things go wrong, or someone maybe misses something, but it's kind of no harm sort of situations, I think are extremely valuable.
It level sets, it humanizes,
Humanizes. I think that's it. That's the right word. It really just humanizes what you do, and it's an immense relief. And but don't underestimate the amount of trust that can be built by two people laughing together.
It's instant, yeah, and that's where a lot of people kind of miss that opportunity, like you were saying. Would you say that's the big thing that other leaders are missing when you talk to other organizations and things like that?
I don't know if it's a big thing, because I think laughter is more of it's a product. I mean, this idea of creating an environment where enjoyment and fun is central to the culture. That's what I think you and I are really talking about, because you can see the opposite. You can see the people that maybe crack one or two jokes too many, and then you move from this idea of laughter being a confidence builder, a humanizer, to it being okay, it's a bit much, let's get serious, or, do you really take this seriously? So I think if you're striving for laughter, be a little bit careful, but I think it's what you and I have been speaking about, is if you create an environment that appreciates fun, not work, or not just work, I should say, but enjoyment, I think laughter will be an outcome of that.
Right. It's the outcome. I mean, it's like you listen to one of my programs where, laughter is the outcome. It's not it's not the process. Right.
That's exactly. But engagement, I think, too, is the other aspect of it. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are massive companies. I'm not going to, comment on which ones, but there's massive companies out there with, these leaders that are, very popular. Everyone flocks to hear them speak, but they just don't have that value on engagement. And I don't know if it's holding them back or not. It's hard to say, because by most measures they're successful. But you do hear the environment that they've created, and it's not something that fits for me. Let's just say it that way. And I don't know that it fits for a lot of people that have joined our team.
Mm-hmm. Right. They even though they may have the wood burning fireplace, there's those other intangibles that are missing.
That's right.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, we still have that green bucket. And our only commitment, it goes back to this connection, is we say that any question that goes in there, we will answer the question. You may not like the answer, but we'll answer. So that thing is still sitting back in the kitchen, and we still use it to this very day.
Yeah, that's a great way to get some answers to questions, and to communicate and be transparent. And I don't know, maybe if you could install like a metaphorical wood burning fireplace, what would that mean?
Yeah. Well, we're actually going to redo our office again to accommodate our growth. So it'll be interesting to see what we get this next time. So I don't know if fireplace will come up again, or if there's some sort of metaphorical fireplace being created. I don't know what it would be. Well, I'll be interested to see. I'll let you know.
Yeah, open up the floor for that one.
That's right.
Any other advice that you would give any fellow leaders looking to create that balance of fun, hard work, and being comfortable with uncertainty? I love that demand instability. Well, that's one that I'm going to remember. So.
Well, I mean, look, and don't forget what I said after that, is that there's some hindsight in what I said. I mean, there's a lot of what we've done that's been, darn scary, from, leaving something that was very stable and by many measures successful for me professionally, to starting this, to taking chances, to giving up control, to build that trust among the team. I mean, it's a lot easier to sit here and even laugh with you about this stuff once it's been successful, but there's a lot of uneasiness that came along with everything that I shared with you. From my perspective, is I always believed in where we were going. I always believed that we had to have the right team to get us there. I always believed that we were assembling the right team. And so when those things started presenting themselves either overtly, or I felt like I recognized among the team, this idea of instability, this idea of, constantly rethinking things, it was fear. There was fear with it, and we trusted in that. But we stayed core to what we believed, we were marching towards. We stayed core to, true to who was going to get us there. And when those presented themselves, I think that belief, there was uneasiness there, but that belief in that overall outcome never faltered. So I don't want it to seem as if we did all these things and we knew it was going to work. No. Trust me, I questioned everything that we did. There were many nights I'm thinking that we were crazy. But once it starts hitting, once it starts driving the results, you can't stop. You just can't stop. And so it'll be interesting to see how we continue to do this. Back to this conversation about extreme growth. But I know we'll do it. And the reason I know is because it'll be these folks out here that do this. It's not me. It's the folks out here that are defining it. And if the groups are defining, if the groups are setting the course and we're simply responding to it, we can't help but be successful, which incidentally is exactly our philosophy for serving our clients. I did not have that plan. That just came together nicely. So
you may have been fearful at first, but then once you got started, you kept going. No, a lot of what you said too reminds me of when you write a new bit, I always tie this back to comedy before we close it out.
Yeah.
You write a new bit. Some of the best jokes come from creating higher tension in the audience. And then when you can release that tension, all of a sudden, you get that big laugh on that joke.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know about this. And then all of a sudden, just the next joke will come. Like maybe you didn't have the next one planned yet. Let's see if the first one works. And then the next one comes. And it's hard for me. It's like when you work at a restaurant, from now on, you go into a restaurant and you look at everything differently. You used to work there, you know what's working well, what's not working well. And as a comic, like I look at just everyday situations from that standpoint too. And so, in hindsight, listening to this conversation, again, I'll probably be able to find a lot more that's there. But, a lot of your philosophy mirrors that of a good comic. And that's why I reached out to you and I was like, will this conversation lead to that? And a lot of times it does. And so,
good. I'm not sure that I would never make a connection between who I am and what I do in comedy, but hey, I'll take it.
I'm not saying go up into an open mic, but
I will not.
If you want to, I won't stop you, but
it's not in my plans. I have a couple, good friends that are people I've worked with in the past that are doing what you're doing, and I respect them. And not that I couldn't do what they do. Couldn't do it.
You can appreciate it though, and that's
I definitely can. I definitely can.
For sure, Victor. You've been an awesome guest. It's been an awesome conversation. Is there anything that you'd like to plug? Anywhere we should follow you on social media? Anything like that?
I'm on Twitter, at Victor Bohnert. You can find me there. You can find our company at Innovatis Group. But thanks for having us. This has been a lot of fun. I find that the questions that are less about challenging and cracking codes and more about, hey, can you just tell us about the fabric of your company? Much easier to have, much more enjoyable. I keep pointing off to the side because I'd love to grab some teams and pull them in here. But thanks for having us. If you ever want to talk to our team and even take temperatures on this or go a different route, the whole company's available to you. I think they'd enjoy speaking to you as much as I did.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I'll definitely keep you in mind. I've got your email address, so you may regret opening that door. That's
not at all. I love what you're doing. It's unique, and it's entertaining, and I think there needs to be more of that.
Yeah, I'll sneak in the back. I'll wear that same fake mustache filter for your team when you bring everybody together. It's like, who's that guy?
I think that's great. We'll watch for you.
All right, Victor. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and thank you for helping me prove that it's okay and you should definitely laugh at work.
You bet. Thanks, David.
Yeah, take it easy, man.
All right, bye-bye.
You can't laugh at that.
Thank you for listening or watching this episode of You Can't Laugh at That's You Can't Laugh at Work series with Victor Bohnert. To learn a little bit more about Innovatis Group, you can visit innovatisgroup.com. Follow them on Twitter, not Twitter. What is Twitter? It's not a real thing. Don't follow them on Twitter. Follow them on Twitter at Innovatis Group, and you can catch up with them on LinkedIn if you'd like. You can also find Victor on LinkedIn as well as Twitter at Victor Bohnert. And yeah, that's it. Once again, this is David Horning. Thank you for listening to this episode of You Can't Laugh at Work, the podcast where we prove that, you can and should laugh at work. And if you want your company to laugh at work a little bit more, check out watercoolercomedy.org, where we specialize in corporate comedy experiences, as well as keynotes, consulting, training courses, and so on. Watercoolercomedy.org, where we help you make work the time and place to laugh. Catch you next time.